artifacts?
Well, I think the most important thing for all of us is like to have a deep curiosity of just solving problems. Like that's my view of the world. When I think about in the early part of my career, some of the most difficult things, like the first product I ever worked on was a product that was a microprocessor.
Microprocessor 微处理器
And we were just about to announce the processor, and like nothing worked. I mean, the chip did not work. We didn't know why it didn't work, but the company was about to announce it. And
The company was about to announce it. 这个公司即将宣布此事。
you think, oh, that's terrible. Like that's like very stressful.
That's very stressful. 这非常令人紧张。
But actually, what it is it allows you to really galvanize.
Allows you to really galvanize. 能让你真正行动起来。
teams on really opening up every ounce of creativity you have to figure out, okay, how are we going to figure out why is this not working, and how do we bring it, move the projects forward? And so that's what I view as the beauty of hard problems. Like you can work on anything in life, but when you work on a really hard problem, or in a company context, when you work on, let's call it the most important projects, you can garner an incredible amount.
You can garner an incredible amount. 你能收获惊人的数量。
of just resources, creativity, focus that will allow you to do something that you wouldn't imagine possible. And that's what I believe is the most important thing managers do, or leaders do. What leaders do is they actually bring teams together to do something that nobody thought was possible. And that's what I enjoy about the world that we're in, is that you're working on problems that are super interesting and quite impactful to the industry.
Quite impactful to the industry. 对这个行业相当有影响力。
And you're also working on something that someone hasn't done before.
I love that. I think that's something we can all take away, looking for the hardest problems and finding the creativity and focus to solve them. Now at the GSB, we learn a lot about hiring and retaining great talent. But something that is less spoken about is recognizing underestimated talent.
Underestimated talent. 被低估的人才。
So Lisa, have you ever made a bet on someone that's been historically overlooked, and how did that go?
Overlooked, and how did that go? 被忽视了，那情况怎么样？
Well, I like to say that, again, our job as leaders is to give people opportunities. You can't guarantee anybody's success, but you certainly can help identify, sort of the people who have a lot of potential. And I'm also a big believer in that, leadership is something that you learn and something that you train. It's not something that you're born with. You actually you learn through lots and lots of different experiences. And so yes, like, hey, somebody took a chance on me, right? Somebody decided, when I was a kid that I should, get these different experiences. Probably the most intimidating.
Probably the most intimidating. 可能是最具威慑力的
experience that I had was, I was at IBM maybe about 5 years, which is relatively sort of still new in my career. I was working on interesting projects. I had done a few interesting projects, and one day I got a call and said, "Hey, can you come down to Armonk?"
Can you come down to Armonk?
We'd like you to meet Lou Gerstner. And Lou Gerstner was the chair and CEO of AMD at the time. And I'm like, why? Like, why would he want to talk to me? Like, that was a very weird thing.
That was a very weird thing. 那是一件非常奇怪的事情。
And they're like, yes, we would like you to be his technical assistant.
To be his technical assistant. 做他的技术助理。
So my job was to actually teach Lou about technology. He was not a technical person, but he was running a technical company, and he wanted to learn about some of the latest and greatest technology things. And I was like, wow, like I didn't realize this is what I went to school for. But the truth was, it was an opportunity for me to observe what life was like, as the top of a company of global scale and size. And I learned so much just from observing. And so I view that as somebody took a chance on me, and I've
took a chance on me. 给了我一次机会。
Still view that as one of the sort of the most impactful experiences of my career in terms of just understanding what life would be like as a CEO. And so, it's our jobs as leaders to take chances on people as well. And that usually means that you put somebody in a job that you're not 100% sure that they can do, but you surround them with lots and lots of support so that they can be successful. And yeah, that is part of a real important part of team development, people development. The other thing is just doing lots of different things, like being able to every couple of years take on a different experience. With every experience, you learn so much. So many different experiences help really round out the overall career capabilities.
Career capabilities. 职业能力。
It's really interesting you say that. At the GSB, we learned that leadership is something that can be trained and a set of behaviors rather than something you're inherently born with. So it's
You are inherently born with. 这是你与生俱来的。
really reassuring. Now, one more point on your resume, but it's the last one, I promise. Now, following Freescale Semiconductor, you then joined AMD as Senior Vice President, helping the company expand beyond PC into gaming and embedded devices. Within 2 years, you were then appointed CEO of the company. So bring us back to the moment when you got the call from the board. How did it feel, and how did you do it?
Yeah, so good question. Let me kind of give you the context, right? If I give you the context, I kind of was a self-proclaimed semiconductor person. This was going to be my profession, my career. I had a great run at Freescale Semiconductor. It was my first opportunity in the C-suite. So I was CTO of the company, and then I ran one of the larger businesses. And then I was like, hey, I need to try something different. And I joined AMD. And many people said at the time, like, why would you join AMD? Like, what would make you join AMD? I actually had mentors in my career saying, I don't think that that's a good move, Lisa. And I was very puzzled. I didn't understand. Why would anybody say that? I thought AMD was a very interesting company, but it was a company that had sort of a track record of not perfect execution.
Not perfect execution. 并非完美的执行。
There were years that AMD did very well. There were years that AMD didn't do very well. And as a result, it was always viewed as, hey, interesting, but not one of the top companies out there. And I viewed it as, hey, look, what was important to me was to lead a company that mattered, like a company that would matter in the industry. And I felt, I am a little bit biased here, but processors are kind of the brains of most things. The idea that semiconductors are now important. 30 years ago, semiconductors were not quite as important. Like people were like, "What's a semiconductor? Why is that important?" Now nobody doubts why semiconductors are so important. Whether you're talking about businesses, economies, national security, all of those things. So that's why I joined AMD, and the opportunity at that time was a industry that was going through just a ton of transition.
Through just a ton of transition. 通过大量的转变。
So, if you think about the tech world, there are these large transitions, whether you're talking about the internet era, or you're talking about mainframe going to PCs, or you're talking about PCs going to mobile. Like all of these major transitions means there's a different set of winners, and there are also going to be some losers. And at the time, this was back in 2012, 2013, 2014, this was the time when PCs were viewed as potentially being losers, when mobile was becoming very prominent, and that's where AMD was. So we were kind of at a crossroads, frankly.
At a crossroads, frankly. 在一个十字路口。
We were at a crossroads for a company that was in transition. The industry was in transition, the company was in transition, and the leadership was in transition. So I joined in 2012 to run the business units. There was no concept of business units, P&Ls, those kinds of things. So there was a lot of transformation to be done there. I had a great partner as CTO. Mark Papermaster has been my partner on this journey. And I became COO in 2014. So I thought, hey, that's great. This is wonderful. I'm getting to run larger pieces of the company. And I was surprised that 6 months after I became COO, I got a call from our chairman of the board. And he said, "It's time, Lisa." And I'm like, really? Like, that seems really kind of quick, And look, I think the moral of the story is you never know, like you can't plan these things to any precision, but
Position.
What was clear was that we had to transition some of our strategy as a company.
Our strategy as a company. 作为一家公司，我们的战略。
And we were ready for a change, and I was very honored to be asked to be CEO, and it was never a doubt that this was like my dream job. So my dream job, going to school and through all these years was to have the opportunity to lead a semiconductor company, and now I had that opportunity. So that was back in October 2014. And something that I remember very, very well.
Well, it definitely wasn't easy when you joined the helm. The company was at the brink of bankruptcy.
At brink of bankruptcy. 处于破产边缘。
And the share price was hovering at around $3. Under your leadership, at its peak, AMD's shares topped $200. So how did you balance between defensive leadership, which involved cost cutting and focusing on the core, with offensive leadership, which involved diversifying product lines?
Involved diversifying product. 包括使产品多样化
and taking bolder bets.
Yeah, well, I think it's fairly clear in tech. There's no such thing as cutting yourself to be a winner.
cutting yourself to be a winner. 严格要求自己，以求成为赢家。
Of course, balance sheets are very important, and P&Ls are very important. But what was really important, I think, for us, it was to decide, what do we want to be when we grow up? Like, what does great look like?
What does grape look like? 葡萄长什么样？
And for us, it was deciding what was important. One of the things that I like to say about the semiconductor industry or technology in general is the decisions that we make today, you will really see the impact like 3 to 5 years down the road. It is all about making the right bets. And for AMD at the time, as I said, we were at a crossroads, and we were needing to make a decision of what do we want to be when we grow up. At the time, the most interesting sector, frankly, was mobile. Like, smartphones were taking off. Everyone was like, Lisa, why aren't we building mobile chips? And we thought about it. Actually, we sized it, we looked at it, we spent quite a bit of time looking at it, and we realized that, yes, that is a good business, but that actually is not a good business for us, because that's not fundamentally what we are best at. Fundamentally, what we were best at, what I believed we could be best at, is building the highest performance computing out there.
Performance computing out there.
It was a bet on high performance computing.
On high performance computing. 关于高性能计算。
And there are many reasons for that. You can look at sort of what your competition looks like. You can look at what the technology landscape looks like. You can look at where you think the markets are going. But if I kind of summarize, there's probably a few basic things, right? You want to make sure that as a company that you're in markets that are large enough, especially picking markets where you see there is sort of industry transformations coming, industry inflections coming.
Industry inflections coming. 行业拐点即将到来。
And then where the company has some secret sauce.
Secret sauce. 秘制法宝。
And so our secret sauce was we knew how to build high performance computers. And I knew that my job as a CEO at the time was to lay out that vision, but then also give our team enough time to fully realize that vision, because nothing changes quickly. Like, we had to set the expectation, like, look, this is going to take 3 to 5 years. It's going to take us 3 product generations. We actually had to start from scratch our products, but we
scratch our products. 仔细研究我们的产品。
knew exactly where we wanted to go, and at the time there was a big industry inflection coming, which was more
Big industry inflection coming. 大型行业拐点即将来
Moore's
临。
law was slowing down. All of you have probably heard about Moore's law. Moore's law was the idea that you can basically continuing to double the amount of capability, reduce the price every 2 years. Moore's law was essentially slowing down, and there was going to be new technologies that would make a difference, and that's what we were going to bet on in terms of going forward. So I think the key with any people call it a turnaround.
Call it a turnaround. 针对一次转机。
Yes, maybe. I call it more, you have to kind of see where the future is going and try to align your resources and your focus with where the future is going.
Right. And other than a technological change, there was also a cultural shift within the company. Were there any key decisions you made that helped change AMD's internal mindset from being an underdog to an industry leader?
Turn an underdog to an industrial leader. 将弱者转变成行业领军者。
Yeah, I think the key thing with any company culture or any team culture is it's not necessarily what you write down, but it's actually what people see and feel every day in terms of day-to-day operation. And so from the AMD culture standpoint, what I like to believe is that everybody in the company is here because we love pushing the bleeding edge of technology.
Pushing the bleeding edge of the technology. 推动技术的极限。